This is the first video for section 3.2, Simple Interest. In this video, we will solve problems involving simple interest and solve simple interest formulas for present value, rate, and time. To begin, some definitions. Principal, also referred to as present value, is the amount of money that is borrowed for a loan, mortgage, or credit card. Or it is the amount that is invested in a savings account. Interest is the amount of money paid to the investor if money is invested, or the amount of money paid to the lender if money is borrowed. Interest rate is the rate offered for a loan or savings account. It's expressed as a percentage, but we use it in formulas in the decimal form. Interest rates are expressed as annual interest rates. Time is the length of the account. Time is expressed in years. Amount is the future value of the account, sometimes just called future value or maturity value. The amount is the principal plus interest. With simple interest, the principal amount is invested or borrowed once. The interest is calculated on the entire principal amount for the entire account period. Simple interest is to be contrasted with compound interest. Compound interest will be covered in the next section. So again, here, this figure 1 shows a lot of that information in a nice table form. So here are the quantities we'll be working with: interest, interest rate, principal, time, and amount. Here are the variables we typically use to represent those. These variables are pretty standard. Any mathematician across the United States, at least, would know what you're talking about when you use these variables. And here are details. So interest is stated in dollars. R, the interest rate, is given in decimal form. P, the principal, is stated in dollars. T is expressed in years. And the amount is stated in dollars. Here are the two formulas we'll work with in figure 2. So the simple interest formula is I equals P times R times T. The future value for simple interest formula is given by one of these formulas here. So it's either the principal plus interest gives the future value, or then if we sub in this I equals PRT for your interest rate here, factor out a P, you end up with this second formula here, that the future amount equals the principal times the quantity 1 plus RT. Example 1. Given the following values, use the simple interest formula I equals PRT. For all dollar amounts, round to the nearest cent. Part A. The principal is $500, the interest rate is 3.2%, and the time is 7 years. Find the interest amount and the total amount in the account. So I equals PRT. And we will simply plug in the values that I know. So I know the principal is $500. I'm given an interest rate of 3.2%. I just need to write that first as a decimal. So as a decimal, let's move the decimal point over twice, times a time of 7 years. So if I do that calculation, you end up with 112. So that would mean that the interest amount is $112. This means that if you invest your $500 for 7 years, you will earn $112 interest. So now the total amount is given by the principal plus interest. So the total amount here would be the $500 originally invested plus the $112 interest, or $612. Okay. Part B. What if the interest is equal to $10? The principal is $1,225.75, and time is 30 months. So I want to use the I equals PRT formula. This time I am told to find and to solve for the interest rate. You'll notice that is the one variable I'm not given, so it makes sense that's the one I'm solving for. So interest of $10 principal of $1,225.75. Interest rate is what I'm solving for. And now my time is 30 months. I cannot simply put 30 here though, because this is 30 months and I need to use my time in years. So I need to take that 30 months and convert it to how many years is that? So I'm going to multiply by 12 months in 1 year. So if I do that, then these months will cancel, right? And that will leave me with the number of years here. So you end up with 2.5. So that 30 months is 2.5 years. So I will use that as 2.5 here. So doing this, you would then want to take this 1,225.75 times 2.5, right? Multiply on the right-hand side. And then you'd want to take 10 divided by that number. So I end up with 0.003263 is equal to your interest rate. So now writing that as a percent, I will move the decimal to the right twice, like this. So that would be 0.326%, or 326 thousandth of a percent. Example 2. Given the following values, use the future value for simple interest formula, A equals P times 1 plus RT. For dollar amounts, round to the nearest cent. So given a principal value of $318.59, an interest rate of 2.7%, which I will use as 0.027, right? I will change that to a decimal, and a time of 40 years. Okay, so I plugged everything into its place, right? And now it's simply use my order of operations to simplify this. So the first thing I would do is the multiplication inside the parentheses here. Following that, I will add 1. So doing that multiplication and adding 1 gives a result of 2.08. And then once I've finished with the operations inside the parentheses here, now I can do this last multiplication to get $662.67. So that would be the amount in the account. Is $662.67. And then to find the amount of interest earned, that's the difference between the two. So the interest earned is saying, okay, the future amount is principal plus interest. My future amount was $662.67. The principal I invested was $318.59 plus I. So you'll see if I subtract the two, right? If we take 662.67 and subtract this 318.59, that gives $344.08 interest earned. Let me circle that. And then here is your future amount in the account. Part B. What if the amount invested is $273.49? The principal is $225. And then we do 1 plus RT. This time the interest rate is what I'm solving for, and I'm given a time of 2 years. So the first thing I want to do here is divide both sides by 225. Right, I'm solving for R. So that gives 1.2155 is equal to 1 plus 2R. The next thing I'll do is subtract 1 from each side. That gives 0.2155 is equal to 2R. And then dividing both sides by 2 will give the final result of 0.107756, or moving your decimal point and rounding to the nearest thousandth as requested is 10.776%, or 10 and 776 thousandth of a percent. Okay, we will conclude this video with example 3. Evan's parents start a savings account for him when he is 1 year old. Suppose his parents put $1,000 into a savings account that earns 1.3% simple interest. They leave the money there until Evan's 18th birthday. How much money is in the account when Evan turns 18? So this is how many of the problems for this finance unit will look. Many of them aren't going to tell you which formula to use, aren't going to tell you what the variables are, like it's not coming out and saying this is equal to P, this is equal to R, but you'll have to figure that out as part of solving the problem. So the first thing to decide maybe is which formula should I use. So they tell me that this is simple interest. So then I have a couple formulas to pick from. Since I'm asked about how much money is in the account, I'm going to use the future value formula for simple interest. So I'll use that formula here. And now I need to decide what all of the variables are, right? So his parents put $1,000 into there. That means that that's your principal value. And the account earns 1.3% simple interest. That's the rate. And they're going to leave the money there until Evan's 18th birthday. But notice I'm not going to plug in 18 for time here. I'll use 17. And that's because his parents didn't invest the money until he's 1 year old. Therefore, the money stays there for 17 years. So simplifying this, what do I get? Again, do the inside of this parentheses first. So 17 times 0.013, and then add 1. That result is 1.221. And then second, do the multiplication. So that ends up with 1,221. So the amount in the account when Evan turns 18 is $1,221. Okay, so then how much of that is interest? So the interest earned, again, I will use this formula that the future amount is equal to the principal plus interest. So this future amount of $1,221 is the principal of 1,000 plus interest, right? So to find the amount that is interest, I will subtract 1,000. You'll find the difference. So $221 of that is interest. This concludes example 3, and this concludes video 1.